Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely reframe a behavior that you are probably seeing everywhere lately. Did you know that nearly 40% of Americans now have some form of a side hustle? That's massive. But we're going to look at why turning your everyday possessions into income isn't necessarily about hustle culture at all. Instead, we're going to explore how this is actually about soothing a nervous system that is deeply, deeply craving stability. So if you've ever felt that itch to make your belongings work for you, you're absolutely going to want to pay close attention to this. Okay, let's dive right in. Have you ever met someone who views every spare room, every car, or even their high-end garage tools as a potential system? When you see someone doing this, it's super easy to wonder, are they just hyper-transactional or are they totally obsessed with cash? Society loves to slap a label on these folks as just side hustlers who simply can't turn it off. But looking at it through that lens completely misses the entire psychological engine that's actually driving their behavior. Because while society often sees this as a transactional hamster wheel, just endless hustling for a few extra bucks, psychology tells us a completely different story. These individuals are actually building a psychological shield against the unpredictable. The science tells us this is not just about the extra cash. It's a remarkably powerful tool for emotional regulation and mental clarity. Today, we're decoding the hidden mental stress that organizing your assets actually relieves. All right, let's get into section 1, from chaos to systems. You see, moving from simply cleaning up a room to fundamentally reducing your mental exhaustion requires a huge shift in how we view ownership. Most people don't realize that static clutter, just items sitting around unused, literally drains your cognitive bandwidth. But by organizing your space to rent out assets, you shift from being a passive owner into a state of total mastery over your environment by managing an active system. You're physically moving your brain away from the mental exhaustion of physical chaos and into a state of structured, calming order. Which brings us right to section 2, designing survival independence. Okay, so this drive to systemize, it is definitely not just some trendy side hustle. It is rooted in a deep, science-backed need for profound safety. If your nervous system learned early on in life that external authorities like bosses, corporations, or just the economy in general aren't always reliable, you might subconsciously seek out what psychologists actually call survival independence. This is that deep-seated need to create multiple, independent streams of stability. You simply don't feel safe when all your eggs are in a basket held by somebody else. By actually turning your physical space into income, you're building a vital psychological buffer. Think of this buffer like a giant shock absorber. It protects you from the stress, the vulnerability, and honestly, the sheer unpredictability of relying entirely on a traditional 9-to-5 job. When you have this buffer firmly in place, a bad day at work or even a sudden, unexpected corporate layoff just doesn't feel like an existential threat to your actual survival anymore. Let's move along to section 3, breaking cognitive rigidity. To get to that level of true independence, you really have to go through a massive mental evolution regarding how you view your everyday belongings. And a huge barrier to this is something called cognitive rigidity. This is basically black and white thinking. For instance, a lot of people rigidly view a home strictly as a place for living and a car strictly as a machine for driving, period. In that mindset, these items are nothing more than massive, unavoidable expenses that constantly drain your bank account. But breaking out of this black and white thinking allows you to see the world completely differently. Where the old view sees only permanent drains on your resources, the new view sees dynamic income opportunities and flexible assets. People who successfully rent out their assets have totally shattered this cognitive rigidity, which allows them to spot amazing potential where everyone else is just seeing a monthly bill. And that brings us to section 4, the locus of control. Here's a fascinating piece of the puzzle. Creating predictability in your environment actively calms your brain down and shields you from a volatile economy. To understand why, we need to talk about System 1 thinking. Financial anxiety is a massive trigger for this specific type of cognitive processing. System 1 thinking is impulsive, it's fast, and it is entirely driven by anxiety and a sense of scarcity. When you're stressed about money, your brain shifts into this mode, which, ironically enough, leads to expensive, panic-driven decisions in other areas of your life, completely compounding the very stress you're trying to escape. Relying on a single paycheck basically traps you in an external locus of control. This means your peace of mind depends entirely on someone else, leaving you feeling helpless and stuck. But organizing your assets, that shifts the locus of control inward. You stop being just a passenger in the economy and you become the active architect of your own peace. This internal shift is literally an incredibly powerful antidote to modern financial anxiety. In a world where every single news alert seems to spike our heart rate, building what psychologists call a quiet system is practically a superpower. When you build this, like setting up predictable recurring rental income, you reap some massive cognitive rewards. This predictable nature promotes incredibly high emotional regulation, simply because you logically know your physical environment is supporting your survival. It drastically reduces that hidden mental stress we all carry around, and as a result, it protects you against making those impulsive, System 1 decisions we just talked about. All right, let's wrap this up with Section 5, Architects of Stability. So let's look at the ultimate psychological result of mastering all the stability. It goes way beyond just feeling safe. By removing the heavy mental weight of unorganized physical chaos and replacing it with a functioning system, you create space for something called physical incubation. Just think about how much mental RAM is used up simply by navigating a messy, underutilized living space. By clearing that out and structuring it, you free up the bandwidth your brain desperately needs for deep work, for creativity, and for high-level problem solving. I absolutely love this concept. It's such a powerful analogy. Just as disconnecting from loud auditory noise allows brilliant business ideas to finally surface in your mind, transforming your physical space clears out the visual and spatial noise, making way for profound cognitive clarity. You are actively optimizing your external world to completely supercharge your internal world. So the ultimate takeaway of this whole explainer, it's really a message of validation. If you're someone who constantly looks at your possessions and thinks, hey, how can I systemize this? Listen to me. You aren't broken. You aren't overly transactional, and you definitely aren't just greedy. You are simply adapting your environment to protect your peace of mind from the loud insecurity of the modern world. You are hardwired to value stability and autonomy. I want to leave you with one final thought today, just to challenge how you view your own environment right now. Look around your home, your driveway, your office. Is your physical space passively draining your cognitive energy, or is it actively funding your peace of mind? It's a seriously powerful question to ask yourself. If you want to dive deeper into the science of optimizing your environment, definitely check out the source links below. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to break down the fascinating systems of our world.